West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Good morning, everybody. What do you say? It is a big Monday, August 10, 2015. So good to see you today. And thank you for climbing on board the Bill Press bus as we head out of Washington, D.C., our home here on Capitol Hill, and reach out to you in every corner of the United States of America on Free Speech TV and worldwide on our video stream, youtube.com/talkertv. President Obama off for his 2-week vacation up in Martha's Vineyard. Started out with a game of golf on Saturday with comedian Larry David, among other partners. And then he and the First Lady went out to dinner. They're just kicking back up there. Meanwhile, on the political front here, Donald Trump in a lot of hot water, not for what he said during the debate last week, but for his post-debate comments about Fox News host Megyn Kelly, comments which really went over the line, but comments for which Donald Trump refuses to apologize because he said nothing wrong. It was only people who interpreted what he said wrongly. So the Republican Party finally has realized they've got a real problem on their hands. They have tolerated Trump this far along, and now they don't know how to get rid of him. On the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders rolling up huge crowds on the West Coast. He set a new record with 16,000 people in Seattle on Friday, and then Saturday, and then yesterday in Portland, Oregon, he topped that, almost doubled that, with 28,000 people turning out in Portland, Oregon. Today he's on to Los Angeles. What a great showing for Bernie Sanders. Lots to talk about here on the political front and others. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Good to have you with us this Monday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
We came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
Should I put the water in there now?
Yeah, go ahead. This is like some kind of chemical agent?
Yeah. Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiend's yelling at me.
Gentlemen, we have a tentacle. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out. Pull them out. Pull them out. Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face. Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, bro.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Just get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly, quickly, quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy.
Yes, we are exfilling.
It was actually around 92, 94. There was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place.
Okay.
So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team.
Uh-huh.
So they regenerated the idea of
I see.
activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
Uh-huh. And it's something like it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street.
Depends.
Or
I mean,
like
a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then obviously we're looking for training for anything else.
Yeah.
That we might be faced with,
Uh-huh.
and that's what's great about Urban Shield is we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Donald Trump said, what? We got to ask that question every day about something.
This is not a repeat show. We're live. We're live on a Monday.
Yeah, that's right. It's the latest version of it. Hello, everybody. Yes, indeed. Just more than hello. Welcome. Great to see you. Big Monday, August 10. And here we are. While the president's out of town, the Senate's out of town, the House is out of town. Here we are because we want to be there with you and for you with the news of the day, as we are on your local progressive talk radio station, as we are on Free Speech TV, both of them nationwide, and as we are worldwide on our video stream, youtube.com/talkertv. Great to see you. Hope you had a great weekend. We are here to tell you what's going on and to give you a chance to talk about it all. Lots to talk about. Yes, not just on the political front with the continuing controversy over Donald Trump and particularly his post-debate remarks, but little news out of Martha's Vineyard, where the president is enjoying his vacay, and a solemn one-year anniversary yesterday in Ferguson, Missouri. That's just where we start. That and a whole lot more to talk about today. Don't forget, you join the conversation by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show. And on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. We kind of, sort of have the team back a little bit together today, as we told you. Impossible to have everybody together during the summer. But Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy, both here today. Hello.
Here we are.
Hey, good morning.
Jamie Benson back from the state of Maine, here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And did Cyprian go back to Paris?
He's not here.
Well, I know he really liked it.
Look, I don't know what he did in Paris, but all I know is that on Friday he said, I'm not going to be here next week. So he could be going back.
He could be, yep. How you going to keep him down on the farm? You can't keep Cyprian down on the farm. So Monty Kensler is here as our videographer for today, and will be already started. Great job. Always does indeed. Good weekend, everybody? Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Wonderful weekend.
I have to tell you, I saw it opened Friday, and I was there Friday because I really wanted to see The Best of Enemies, new documentary about the classic, famous debate between William F. Buckley Jr. and Gore Vidal.
Yeah.
During the 1968 presidential conventions, both in Miami, it's a great, and in Chicago, right? Of course, Chicago.
Yeah.
And it's a great story. I didn't realize the whole context of the story, but ABC was like a JV team at the time. CBS and NBC were huge,
Big dogs.
and they covered the convention gavel to gavel, and which networks don't do anymore. ABC couldn't. They didn't have the resources. They didn't have the talent. They didn't have the money. And so they decided they would do something different. They covered the convention only from 9:30 to 11 every night. And then they hired these two guys as commentators to do a little debate each night. They ended up getting the biggest ratings of both conventions because Vidal and Buckley were so good is hardly the word. They hated each other.
I mean, talking about two masterful debaters.
Masterful, brilliant debaters. And so patrician, the way they talk. But Vidal as well.
Yeah, right.
And Gore Vidal had done his homework. He hired a researcher, and he came in. And in Miami, he just killed Buckley because he would say, you would say this, and Buckley said, I never said. He said, on page 13 of the National Review,
oh my
such
God.
and such a debate. And he just, oh, yeah, that's right. And then, of course, they got in. It finally boiled over when Gore Vidal called Buckley a crypto-fascist.
Yeah.
And Buckley says, stop calling me that, you queer.
You queer.
There's never been television like it. Yeah. And Buckley says, I'll sock you in the nose.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a classic piece of audio that's just so amazing.
Showing that all great TV is born out of hate, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But
we've really come so far since those days, haven't we?
Yeah, that's right. But there are 10 debates. There's nobody alive today since the death of my good friend Christopher Hitchens who could equal them in terms of intellectual capacity, right? The two of them.
I can't think of anybody out there.
Nobody.
That does, yeah. No, you're right. That sucks.
So, yeah, it made Crossfire seem like a knitting show. Anyhow, go see it. The Best of Enemies. Got to do it.
Good stuff.
We got lots going on here today. National Journal reporters will be in, as well as reporters from Politico. And, yes, did Donald Trump finally go too far? But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. So you've heard of Bee-pocalypse, Bee-mageddon. These are all names that are being used to describe what we're currently dealing with the honeybee situation around the world. Honeybees are dying, and they're putting into like $15 billion worth of crops in jeopardy if we don't figure out what the hell is going on with the honeybees. In fact, the White House put forth the first national strategy to promote the health of honeybees and other pollinators. But I do have some good news.
And they have that, the one beehive.
They do have a beehive.
Yeah.
They do have a beehive. It's actually some good news. They took a good hard look at bee colonies all around the world and found out that they're actually on the rise now. There'd been a big, serious dip in bee population, but it's starting to build back up. Colonies are getting bigger. So they've gone from 2.4 million colonies in 2012 to 2.7 in 2014. So it's getting better.
Good. I blame that dentist out in Minnesota.
Yeah, right? Yeah, the big bee hunting is a real problem.
I think he's been hunting bees as well as lions.
That's right. All right, here's a prank that just went too damn far. The Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles do not like each other in the NFL, Bill. They don't like each other at all. In fact, the Dallas Cowboys, they hired someone to fly a banner over the Philadelphia Eagles practice field talking about how great the Cowboys are. Well, an Eagles fan tried to do the same thing. They hired someone to fly an Eagles banner over the Dallas Cowboys practice, but that pilot was killed in a plane crash.
Oh, no.
They were going to take off to go and tease the Dallas Cowboys, and the plane crashed. He is the only one who was killed. The man who hired the pilot took to Twitter and said that he feels very, very sorry for the family, and all money that was raised to pay for the pilot would be given to his family.
Oh, that's sad.
You guys got to chill out there. Don't take sports so seriously. And how about this? State-of-the-art forensic technology has been used to take a look at William Shakespeare. So when they were looking in his garden in Stratford-upon-Avon, they found several pipes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they figured, William Shakespeare liked to smoke a pipe every now and then. Well, they took a
those
look.
kind of pipes. I thought you meant.
Not running water pipes, but like smoking pipes. They took a look and found that chemicals from the pipe bowls and stems which had been excavated from his garden show marijuana. Marijuana were in those pipes. That's what William Shakespeare was smoking.
That explains.
That explains a lot, right? That really explains a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't understand Shakespeare, and there are plenty of people who don't, maybe just go get high. It might make more sense to you. You'd be on his level.
Well, it's nice to know when the theater, there's kind of raucous scenes in the theater then, with all the people standing down in front of the stage and shouting back at the actors and everything. Yeah. It's nice to know that they were all probably stoned.
Pretty baked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stoner, William Shakespeare.
Another reason to like him.
Yeah, right. I knew I liked that guy.
Well, as I said last week, the morning after the big debate, the big winner in my mind was Fox News, and that certainly has proved to be true. When the numbers came out, more people watched that first debate on Fox, and it was certainly worth watching than almost any other event in television history, certainly cable history. 23.9 million Americans tuned in to watch that debate. And as Donald Trump says, if he hadn't been on stage, the audience would not have been nearly as high, and he is absolutely right.
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah. And now Donald Trump continues to be in hot water, as we all know, not so much for what he said during the debate, although during the debate he certainly was pretty feisty. He's in trouble for his comments post-debate where he just wouldn't let up on host Megyn Kelly. She's the one who asked the question which set him off during the debate. By the way, a fair question because she was just repeating things that he had said about women.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
For the record,
clever attempt
it was well beyond Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I'm sure.
Didn't work. He tried to deflect it there. It didn't work. And so he comes, I could say, that's a bad question. Whatever, that was a nasty question. I could say nasty things about you, Megyn, but I won't. But then he sort of went on to say how much he appreciated women or something. So afterwards...
She's right, by the way. She stopped him and said, it's not just about Rosie O'Donnell. You said about a lot of women.
Exactly. But that's his style is personal attack. You say something about Donald Trump, we've seen that. John McCain, Lindsey Graham, all of them, right? Jeb Bush. He's going after every single one of them, and he went after Megyn Kelly. But the problem was he just didn't stop. So the first thing he says was she was out to get him. Her questions were unfair. That Fox News was out to get him. By the way, I think he's right about that. You notice almost every candidate was given an opportunity by one of the hosts to attack Donald Trump. They were all, John Kasich was, they said, wouldn't you like, Jeb Bush, wouldn't you like to, Marco Rubio. They were goading them on against Trump. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So, but then, Trump, and then it keeps attacking. It gets worse and worse and worse until finally, on CNN, he comes out with this comment.
He starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions. And, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
That's cringy.
That is cringy. And, of course, right away, people said they were... that he was referring to as a certain time of the month for her. And everybody says he must apologize. That's just too far, one step too far for Donald Trump, which, by the way, is what they said when he said that John McCain was no real war hero because he was just shot down. Yesterday, is he going to apologize? That's a big question. I'm sure the Sunday shows had a bigger audience than they normally do yesterday because he appeared on 4 out of 5. Everyone except Fox News Sunday appeared by phone. George Stephanopoulos saying, how about an apology?
No apologies to Megyn Kelly? You don't think you don't think you crossed the line there?
No, not at all. I said, look, she asked me a very nasty question. I have nothing against Megyn Kelly, but she asked me a very, very nasty question.
Yeah. Well, how about your nasty comment about her bleeding? Donald.
I was referring to nose, ears. They're very common statements, and only a deviant would think of what people said. Some people said.
So, blood coming out of her eyes, ears, nose, wherever. It's just
honestly, that doesn't even make much sense.
I don't care whether he was referring to menstruation or not. It's just
right.
wrong. It's
Right.
just too bad. It's really way, way over the line. Come on. She got the best of you on that question. Move on.
Eat it. Eat it and move on.
Yeah, right. If he had said nothing, if he had just said, you know what he should have said? Hey, you know what? Politics is hardball. It's fair game. Yeah. I'm fair game. Everybody's fair game. You give and you take. Give a little, you take a little, and you kind of move on. But no, Donald Trump can't stop there. And now the Republican Party is all aflutter because what are they going to do with Donald Trump? And so I want to ask you the question that we asked after he made the comments about John McCain. Has Donald Trump finally gone too far? 866-55-PRESS. Did he finally go over the line? Is this going to be the fall, or at least the beginning of the fall, of Donald Trump? 866-55-PRESS. And I got to tell you, I'm not so sure. I saw one poll this morning. He was 24% national before the debate. I saw one poll this morning that shows he's at 23%. I'm not saying what should happen. You tell me what will happen. Is this the end of Donald Trump? Did he finally go too far? 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Silicon Valley's Santa Clara County is often portrayed as a role model for the rest of the country. The county has some of the highest salaries and most expensive real estate in America, thanks in large part to the phenomenal success of tech companies such as Google, Yahoo, Intel, Adobe, and of course Apple, the nation's wealthiest and most profitable company. But Santa Clara County also has a more unseemly distinction. I'm standing near downtown San Jose, inside what is by some accounts the largest homeless encampment in America. The Jungle, as it's known, occupies a 65-acre stretch of creek where about 300 people live in makeshift structures. It's less of a homeless encampment than a full-blown shantytown.
This being the largest homeless encampment in the United States, and us having Silicon Valley with Steve Jobs and all this cash, we're not supposed to have this kind of homeless problem. You know what I mean?
I done been shot with a pellet gun like 4 times, attacked with baseball bats, my house set on fire.
This is like hell on earth. I mean, this is like something you will not see. You have to see to believe, actually. It's like fourth world conditions.
Hi, have you ever heard of a place called the Jungle? Sorry? A place called the Jungle, have you heard of it?
We're not making enough money really for conventional homes or housing, and we make too much money for subsidized homes. So we're kind of, floating between the oil and the water.
We told the landlady here if it would be possible to continue staying here. She said, no, you got to go. I already rented it out. We went and loaded things into a storage facility, and it's still there. And all the campgrounds and things that we saw were too far out of the city, like KOAs and that sort of thing. So what we decided to do was to move into the jungle. So that's what we did.
A few days ago, a woman named Lydia Hernandez was robbed inside of her tent. When she refused to hand over the money, the robbers slit her throat. When she still fought back, they bashed her head with an axe. She died a few hours later. Residents say that the police never come into the jungle, so they have to fend for themselves.
There's no law down there except our own, right? There's no law, so we could smoke dope all day in the open. The dope dealers ain't scared because they're secure.
We go to the Fairmont Hotel and have a brunch or do a philanthropy. That's not going to cut it. We need billions of dollars to go into the inner cities and go into the jungle. Silicon Valley, the Bay Area is known for its innovation, its progressive thinking. It's one of the most progressive pockets in the United States, if not the world, and certainly one of the wealthiest. If we can't do it here, it won't happen anywhere. It's got to happen here.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 26 minutes after the hour. Here we go. Hard to start anywhere else but on Donald Trump doubling down and refusing to apologize for his certainly over-the-line comments against Megyn Kelly, whatever he was talking about. Donald Trump, of course, insisting all the while that just like he told audiences 4 years ago, or was 8 years ago when he was thinking of running, that he has a great relationship with blacks. He insists he has a great, he wouldn't have said that because he has a great relationship with women.
I've had such an amazing relationship with women in business. They are amazing executives. They are killers. Now, when I say that about a man, it's very sad. If you say that about a man, it's considered a great honor. It's also a great honor when you say it about a woman, and that's the way it was meant.
All right, Donald, yeah, but still, what you said was wrong. But is this finally the end of Donald? Has he finally gone too far? 866-55-PRESS. Mike out in Chicago. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah, how you doing? What do you think?
So here's the thing. Donald Trump is not going to be affected by this because here's the thing. I think the American public is wised up now that they're not taken in by the antics of media like this because he struck a nerve with the American people. He's talking about the things that really matter to Americans. I mean, the outsourcing of our jobs. Basically, what's causing our wages to be driven down. He's talking about these things. These are things that Democrats should be talking about, to be honest with you. But he's talking about them being a Republican. And I think this sideshow's going to go on for a couple of weeks. People will forget about it. He's just going to keep on doing better because he's talking about the things that really matter to this country.
Do you think, Mike, he could eventually become the Republican nominee?
I think he'll probably be the Republican nominee, whether they like him or not. I mean, he's going to start toning it down. But I think if he doesn't, really, the Republicans, they don't stand a chance. What else do they really have? I mean,
well, I don't see any of them winning, to tell the truth. I don't see Donald Trump winning. But I think Mike is right. This is not, to me, this is not going to be the end of Donald Trump. More calls coming up here on Donald Trump. Did he finally go too far? The Bill Press Show on a Monday.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, that guy Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. Unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not
touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I could just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in the city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Things to do when you go.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, we start out the week here on a Monday, August 10, and The Bill Press Show. Catching up with the events of the weekend, and particularly on the Sunday shows yesterday. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., brought to you today by the American Federation of Teachers. We salute the teachers of America. Members of the AFT making a difference in our classrooms every day under President Randy Weingarten. And we thank them for the support of the program. Check out their website, aft.org, and on the Sunday shows, of course, as well as on all the cables this morning, the talk is Donald Trump refusing to apologize for his post-debate comments about Megyn Kelly. And asking the question, which everybody is asking, has he finally gone too far? Is this the beginning of the end for Donald Trump, or should it be? 866-55-PRESS. Back to your calls here in just a second. I just want to remind you that early on in this Republican primary, I suggested that the Republican Party might take a lesson from the Democratic Party and the way they handled Lyndon LaRouche, who was their bugaboo, ran for president 7 times as a Democrat, didn't represent at all what the Democratic Party stood for, but registered as a Democrat and got in primaries across the country. I remember running into Donald LaRouche supporters up in New Hampshire and Rhode Island and Maine. The Democratic Party just simply never accepted Lyndon LaRouche. They just said, well, he may say he's a Democrat. We don't accept him as a Democrat. We repudiate him, and we will not allow him to participate in any of our party debates because he is so far out there. Instead, the Republican Party thought they could have it both ways. They could coddle Donald Trump and humor Donald Trump, and then he would just be an amusing sort of little sideshow. And guess what? He has taken over the freaking Republican primary. He wasn't just on stage. He just didn't barely make it last week. He was the center of the stage. He had the number one position because he was polling twice what Jeb Bush, number 2, was polling. And he still is.
Yeah, it's something you've talked about a lot, and John Kasich recognized it in the debate. Donald Trump has tapped into something, right? There's something there. And you don't have to like it. You definitely don't have to like it, but it's real. We keep saying that. It is real. I don't know how real it's going to be in a year, but there's something there.
Look, and again, I think he's a pig. His language...
Oh, yeah, he's the worst.
He's the worst. Yeah, his language is way, way over the top. These personal attacks, that's what... And total lack of substance. We have no idea what Donald Trump stands for, really.
No.
On the issue.
He stands for Donald Trump.
Yeah, right. That we do know, right. And these personal attacks. But, you get rid of Donald Trump, and what do you have? You have the Donald Trump Republican Party. Paul Krugman had a great column on this on Friday. There's no difference between Donald Trump and the rest of them on immigration reform, for example. He may say it more colorfully, right?
Yeah.
But they all agree with him. They would all round up everybody and send them back to Mexico if they could. Only Jeb Bush would disagree with that. And on women's rights, you had Marco Rubio on the same stage say that he would force a woman to carry a baby to term even if she'd been raped or a victim of incest. No exceptions whatsoever. That was Marco Rubio. That wasn't Donald Trump. You got Mike Huckabee up there who says all women are raging hormones. Only uncles should depend on Uncle Sugar, right? But every one of those candidates up there is anti-choice, except George Pataki, who doesn't have a chance, right? So, again, Donald Trump he says things more outrageously, wrongly, but he is no worse on the policies than any of the rest of them. Ike is down in Charleston. Has he finally gone too far? Ike, what do you think?
Well, first off, I want some of that Afghani whack that Mike's got in Chicago. But has he gone too far? Nah. Listen, this is an end result of the reality TV show your butt at any cost to make money. The Kim Kardashian garbage that's been pumped out and that people are buying into, and false news channels such as Fox News that continue to perpetuate this kind of everything's on fire attitude. And meanwhile, when you look at a narcissistic blowhard, sociopath such as Donald Trump, you shouldn't expect anything less from him. And I know this is breaking news, and I know this is going to shock you, but you know what? I love him. I'm going to vote for him. I hope he gets the nomination. And, he's the best thing that could ever happen to the Democratic Party.
Ike, you never cease to amaze us.
That's one way to look at it.
I'll tell you, if I were, put it this way, if I were in a state where you could vote for either party.
Yeah.
In the primary.
Yeah.
I'd vote in the Republican primary for Donald Trump just to make him the nominee.
Sure, yeah.
just to show the Republican Party it serves you right. You have coddled this guy. You have taken this money. You have praised him, and now you're stuck with him.
Do you remember last time around when Mitt Romney went out and had that huge media event
in Las Vegas?
Because Donald Trump was going to announce his endorsement of Mitt Romney. Romney had to be there and shake his hand and smile for the cameras, and just there to get the money, just there to get the endorsement, but giving him that sort of cred in the GOP party, right?
Totally.
The nominee will go to Donald Trump to go get that endorsement. That's how long they've been playing around with this guy, playing footsie with him.
What? And NBC gave him this.
Yeah.
This TV show.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Tom, up in Boston, Mass. Hey, Tom.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good to hear from you. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that it's good to see Elise back behind the control boards there.
All right,
Thank
Elisa.
you.
There it is. Good.
Dude, what a combo. But aside from that, I'd like to
Hey,
sum
Tom,
up,
turn your radio down. Turn your radio down in the background there.
I'd like to sum up Trump's candidacy in 7 words,
Yeah.
which is an empty barrel makes the most noise.
I haven't heard that phrase for a long time.
That's a good one.
But that is good. That is good, Tom. Absolutely. Yeah, indeed.
Tom, I like that call.
I did. Yeah, I think so. Is he any relation to Marty?
Yeah, right. Yeah, Marty.
You know, there's a couple of other things worth mentioning here, and we'll come back to this during the rest of the show too. But there's a certain amount of hypocrisy among the Republicans about Donald Trump. Again, they have coddled him for so long, and now they're stuck with him. But there's no more hypocrisy than Eric Erickson, the head of the Red State blog, who had his big annual gathering in Atlanta over the weekend, and he invited all of the Republican candidates down. And then he disinvited Donald Trump when Donald Trump made the blood comment about Megyn Kelly. And so here's Eric Erickson, right, being the moral judge, if you will, of the Republican Party. Eric Erickson, of all people. This is a guy that when he was a CNN contributor, I should say, said on his radio show that when the census was a big issue, this was very early in the Obama administration, and I raised this issue at a White House briefing with Robert Gibbs. Eric Erickson, who said, on the census takers, if one of them walked up on his porch, just a census taker, walked up on he would get his wife's shotgun and scare him off. I don't think he said he would actually kill him, but I mean, take his wife's shotgun and point it at a census taker, basically encouraging other people to do the same thing.
And this idea that Eric Erickson is going to take a stand for women.
Yeah.
Right?
Eric Erickson, who has said that males should be dominant in every relationship. Eric Erickson, who has said Media Matters laid this all out, his past statement. Eric Erickson has said women belong at home while men bring home the bacon.
Yeah. That's a quote.
Quote, unquote. Those are the right words, right? I mean, his exact words. He says that's the right role for women. Just looking for it here. Yeah. Kids likely will do best in households where they have a mom at home nurturing them while dad is out bringing home the bacon. And he said it's just a horrible thing in this country. There are women out there being breadwinners. That's not what they're supposed to be doing. Eric Erickson, who has also said that LGBT people, gays and lesbians, are going to hell. Countries supporting marriage equality are bent on suicide. And he says, when are we going to beat state legislators? When's somebody going to break into a state legislator's house and beat them to a bloody pulp?
Nice.
This is Eric Erickson.
Really nice.
Who now is saying, we can't have Donald Trump. Oh, yeah, give me a break. They got him. They deserve him. They don't know what they're going to do with him. Take a quick break out to talk to Alex. Well, we'll discuss this and other issues with Alex Roarty from the National Journal Hotline coming up next here on a Monday, The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are 3 incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip
or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour, Monday, August 10. Starting off with a lot of political news to talk about. The best source for what's happening in politics at the state level, at the gubernatorial level, at the Senate and House level, and at the presidential level. All across the board has been for a long time the national journal Hotline. Chief political correspondent for the Hotline, Alex Roarty, joins us on our news line this morning. Hello, Alex. This is what you live for, days like this, right?
Absolutely, Bill. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Before we get to Donald Trump, because we've been talking about him, Bernie Sanders had record crowds again on the West Coast over the weekend. Where's his campaign going, do you think?
His campaign is going to a place more significant than I think any of us thought when the summer began. I think, and I saw the number, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, about 20,000 people in Portland.
28,000.
28,000,
wow.
which is a remarkable number. I mean, that's like Barack Obama, like in the heat of the general election, kind of numbers. Clearly he's tapping into something. The question is, are these people who are fully committed to vote for Bernie Sanders and really think he can be president, or do they like him, but they are all ultimately resigned that Hillary Clinton is going to be president, or at least a Democratic nominee? And that's the question I think I have for a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters.
Yeah,
how
I think
deep
you're
is your
right.
commitment?
And also, is there a foundation, right, or ground campaign to back that up? I do know, I've not been on the road with Bernie yet, but I do know that they are getting email addresses and information on every single person who attends every one of these events, and then if they can turn them into into foot soldiers, then we might see some real electoral success in Iowa and New Hampshire.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he does have the money to put together a real campaign. I mean, the money, the small dollar donations that he's been able to collect has been almost as impressive as his crowd. So if he has the people and the wherewithal to put together a real top flight operation, he does have the resources to do that.
No doubt about it, and also he certainly has already achieved one of his goals, which is to influence the debate and the issues that are being talked about in this election.
Well, I mean, if you look at a lot of the issues that Hillary has talked about, and she's actually been pretty liberal in a lot of the things that she has, I think, in anticipation of Bernie and trying to hold him off. So there's no doubt that he's had an influence on the debate, I think.
All right, so what's your take? Has Donald Trump finally gone too far? Is this the beginning of the end for the Trump campaign?
I mean, I think the honest answer is I have no idea, because
that's a very honest answer.
I assumed after he criticized John McCain,
right,
and was essentially censured by the entire party, that was the beginning of the end, and it wasn't. If anything, he rose in the polls. When I watched his debate on Thursday, I thought, he is delivering exactly the kind of thing that maybe pundits don't think works, but it certainly worked for him to this point. I do think what has happened since then with Megyn Kelly is a different kettle of fish, and we'll have to see. But it's just hard. It's hard for me to sit here and kind of predict where his campaign is going next, because I feel like I've been wrong about his campaign ever since he declared.
No, I think everybody has.
A lot of people have, yeah.
And the same. But people I find the people who are saying today, "Oh, this is it, right? He's finally gone too far," are the same ones who said that, as you pointed out, after his comments about John McCain.
Right. And look, if you were to, put a gun to my head, I still don't think he has a campaign by Thanksgiving, that somehow he's dropped out. But I never thought he would come this far, this fast, and certainly not by August. I mean, it may be a blip, over the early part of the summer. He would rise in the polls and then inevitably fall. But it hasn't happened yet, and I'm just not sure with his supporters what it is that will change his mind. I mean, look, we're not talking about a guy who has the support of half the Republican primary electorate. He gets 20%, 22 or 23% tops. That's a small portion of Republican voters, but it's big enough in a very large field. That's enough to lead by a considerable distance. So I'm just, with those supporters, I'm just not sure when it is that they say, okay, enough is enough, we're going to support someone else.
And, by the way, I think we could ask the same question about Trump that we asked about Bernie, whether or not there are forces on the ground in Iowa to get people out to the caucuses, right? Or
I think that's even a bigger question right now.
Right.
He has, interestingly, bought, from all places, Americans for Prosperity, which is the Koch-backed group. He has kind of bought wholesale campaign operatives from
AFP, really?
From some of their state chapters in New Hampshire. In fact, his campaign manager right now is from AFP, I believe. But whether or not I've read that he's doing things like trying to get on the ballot in Virginia, which, if you recall, tripped up Newt Gingrich last time around. We'll see if those things are actually happening.
Yeah.
That's one of the questions I've had about Trump for a while.
All right. I'm telling you, fun to watch, Alex. Got to run along, but thanks so much for your time this morning, Alex. Appreciate it.
Guys.
All right, we'll catch you on the hotline, nationaljournal.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000. I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
Yesterday, the 1-year anniversary of the death of Michael Brown out in Ferguson, Missouri. 1 year later, have we made any real progress in this country? We'll tackle that issue at the top of the next hour here on the Bill Press Show. Then we'll be joined a little bit later by Seung Kim, congressional reporter for Politico. Lots more to talk about here, so stay with us on this Monday, August 10th.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governor should come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people had lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we've took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving.
and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where we're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies
gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
He refuses to apologize because he says he didn't say anything wrong. Donald Trump, still riding strong and defiant. Hey, hello, everybody. Good to see you today. And thanks for joining us on a Monday, August 10. Good to have you on board today. We've got lots to talk about. Even though it is the middle of summer, even though Washington is a ghost town with the president, the House, and the Senate out of town, we're here on the job, on the case, keeping track of what's going on so we can tell you about it. And so we can give you a chance to sound off about it. That's the fun we have for 3 hours every weekday morning here on your local progressive talk radio station. Happy to be there with you in Radio Land. And also on Free Speech TV, those of you watching at home or at the office, appreciate the fact that you're there. And worldwide, tuning in on our video stream. Any electronic device, you can find us at youtube.com/TalkerTV, TAWKRTV. Hail, hail, the gang's almost all here today. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Welcome back from a big weekend.
Yes, indeed.
Jamie Benson is back from a little vacay here and on the board to take your, on the phones to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. We lost Cyprian again. He just decided he liked it so much on the other side of the pond that we think he's escaped back there again.
Someone needs to tell Cyprian we do not operate our vacation schedule the way the United States Congress operates their vacation schedule.
I think that's a good point, right?
You know? You can't
but at least he's watching. You know, Cyprian is up wherever he is. He's watching
today because we haven't heard from him.
He was texting me from Paris.
No, we haven't heard from him.
He hasn't texted me yet this moring.
Yeah, the other thing Cyprian's got to learn is, when you go away on a long vacation and you come back, you got to come back. You have to stay for more than 2 days before you take
more time off.
Another one, right? Yeah. Anyhow, but thank God we have Monty Kanzler standing by. Always in the wings, ready to jump in as our videographer, which he is today. And I feel the burn. I feel the burn. I'm telling you, that blue coast, the West Coast, is going to be good for Bernie, and it proved to be. So 2 days, setting records, 2 days in a row. Remember, before it was, I think, Phoenix, where he had the biggest crowd. After first it was Madison, Wisconsin, with 10,000. Phoenix was, I don't know, like 12 or something like that. So Seattle on a Saturday was 16,000. And they put out a statement that's the largest of any candidate, of course, in this cycle of any event. And then that was Saturday. Then he went on to Seattle. No, to Portland.
Right.
Portland yesterday. And I had a note from a friend of mine who said he was going out there, and he said, they're having this thing in the hall where the Trailblazers play.
Yeah.
And he says, I don't know, what it's going to look like in a hall that big. They filled it. Bernie filled it, packed it. 28,000 people. That's the police estimate. Are saying 20, not the campaign, please, 28,000 people.
Good Bernie, grief.
Can you imagine that? Yeah.
No.
I mean, as Alex Roarty told us at the end of the last, those are the crowds, the size of crowds that Barack Obama was getting in the middle of the general election against Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
Bernie's getting that in the primary, and he was in rare form talking again about, he's out there talking about income inequality, talking about economic populism, talking about jobs for the middle class, and talking about not letting the billionaires be the only ones who were running this country.
This campaign is sending a message to the billionaire class. Yes, we have the guts to take you on.
Yeah.
You know,
I love it. I love it.
It's so great. And you hear that, and everybody agrees with that. And yet, what other politicians out there that strong?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, we can all agree, yes, that is a great message, but why won't more people do it?
Yeah. But what a contrast to the Republican debate last week.
Oh, my God.
Where the billionaire class dominated the debate. Where the best thing the Republicans can put forward is another billionaire.
Well, the billionaire.
Right?
Yeah. It's perfect.
I know. Yeah. Feel the burn. All right. And Bernie's in Los Angeles today. By the way, again, where they've taken over where the Lakers play downtown. So
another big crowd.
We'll have another huge crowd. I've got
the
friends.
Lake Show.
Yeah, I've got a friend who's going to be there. This is indeed
a billionaire class.
All right. Reporters from National Journal and Politico joining us a little bit later. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. We go to Spokane, Washington, where a man ran out of a grocery store with another woman's bag. She saw that this guy had stolen a purse. This 42-year-old woman, Heidi Muat, was watching this happen, and she took off after the man. Heidi Muat, 40, also goes by another name. She is a roller derby player in Spokane, Washington.
Oh, whoa.
And she goes by the name Ida B. Choaz. Or
Oh, no.
Ida beat your ass.
Oh, no.
Which is exactly what she did when she got a hold of this guy. She caught him, pinned him on the ground, took the purse back, and it is now being called Crime Stopper there in Spokane, Washington. Good for you, Miss Choaz. We'll call her Miss Choaz.
Just imagine if she would have had her skates on.
Yeah, right.
Would have been way worse.
Yeah, exactly. Real damage would have been done. This story is fascinating to me. Target. When you go into a Target, if you've been in a Target at all and you walk past where the toys are, it's very, very clear that they have things separated into a boys section, which has blue and all kinds of different Nerf guns and action figures, and then you go a little bit further, and then it becomes pink with dolls and doll houses and things like that.
That's in most toy stores is that way.
Not anymore in Target. They are getting rid of the gender assignment area in the toy section. They're just going to put them all together. They say that it's not appropriate anymore for us to expect that girls are going to play with dolls and boys are going to play with bow and arrow type toys, that everybody should be able to play with whatever they want. So they're doing a paint job. They're getting rid of the blues and the pinks, and they are going to just have a toy section for everyone.
I get
fascinated by this.
Getting rid of the colors I like, but there are certain toys that boys will play with more than girls, and certain toys that girls will play with more than boys. I'm sorry.
I know. No, I agree with you. I think this is
that.
really, really interesting because we were very aware of this and whole gender assignment and gender roles and just let the kids do whatever they want to do. And it's just kind of, nature runs its course here, and boys like to destroy things and blow stuff up.
Yeah.
And girls are not quite as maniacal as boys. So, I do get some of this.
And parents might have more of a difficulty finding things if you don't have some sort of assignment.
I will be pissed if I have to go and find my boy toys in the Target stuff. I know exactly where to go now. But it's an interesting step.
We'll see how that works out. Right.
And we said farewell to Jon Stewart last week, but we don't have to say farewell to his desk. The desk is coming right here to Washington, D.C. The set of The Daily Show will be housed at the Newseum. They're going to redo
Yeah.
the whole thing because host Trevor Noah, it's going to be a whole new setup for The Daily Show. He's going to get his new desk and his new set. So they are moving them all to the museum. Their Senior Vice President of Exhibits, Kathy Trost, said, "We are thrilled to accept the donation of these artifacts to the museum collection. They are part of America's cultural and media history." So will you be able to sit at Jon Stewart's desk?
Yeah, that's great. It should be there.
I agree.
Or in the Museum of Broadcasting in New York or someplace.
Yeah.
But at the museum here in Washington's perfect spot. Yeah.
I thought so.
So you can go to the American History Museum to see Julia Child's kitchen.
Yeah.
And you can go to the museum to see Jon Stewart's desk.
What else do you need?
There you go. All right. Indeed. Yes, yesterday a solemn moment. Actually nationwide, not just in Ferguson, Missouri, but the centerpiece, of course, was Ferguson, Missouri, because it was a year ago yesterday, August 9, 2014, that Michael Brown, unarmed black teenager, was gunned down by Officer Darren Wilson, gunned down for nothing more than walking down the middle of the street without a gun on. Officer Wilson was... We still don't know all the details of what happened, but he was out there looking for a convenience store robbery suspect and tangled or accosted Michael Brown, and it ended up with Michael Brown being shot. And then remember the story of being left to lie there in the middle of the street for some 4 hours before his body was moved. Yesterday, hundreds of protesters and supporters gathered in the streets of Ferguson, Missouri, to mark that first anniversary. It began quite peacefully, reading poetry that some had written for the occasion.
To your father, your mother, your brothers and sisters and close friends who had to shed tears, I'm writing this poem, letter to you, Mike. I know you are here.
And Michael Brown Sr. was the one who led the march through the streets of Ferguson, saying this, of course, is a moment that he will never get over or forget.
The biggest question that's always asked to me is how I feel. I think that's just the dumbest question you can ever ask me.
Yeah.
How about, how is your day? How's this moment?
Sadly, that day of remembrance yesterday ended with gunfire late last night. As has too often been the case in Ferguson, there are troublemakers who show up. Someone did with a gun. There was gunfire. One man was critically injured in an exchange with police. But that shouldn't be the story of the day. The story of the day still is the fact that so many unarmed young black men have been shot and killed by white police officers. And we ask ourselves the question, since Ferguson, have we seen any change? Certainly Ferguson sparked a national conversation on this issue. There was a grand jury investigation and a Department of Justice investigation, as a result of which, by the way, neither of which were any charges filed against Officer Darren Wilson. But the Department of Justice did put out a report, remember, condemning the Ferguson Police Department for years and years of racial bias, and demanding that they change certain ways that they were doing things, particularly in terms of recruitment and in terms of training. And again, sparked a national conversation, even comments from the President of the United States about the tension and the difficulties in so many communities around the country with abuse by police departments of African Americans, particularly young African Americans, and in many cases, violence by white police officers against young unarmed black teenagers. And so the question again, any change in all of that time, despite with this conversation and with this increased awareness of racial bias on the part of police departments? There doesn't seem to be much progress. The Washington Post reporting this morning that so far this year, 24 unarmed black men have been shot and killed by white police officers. 24 so far in the year 2015. That is one every 9 days.
That's remarkable. That feels about right.
Yeah.
That feels about right. It seems about once every week and a half or so that we hear another story about this.
And we remember North Charleston, the case of Walter Scott. We remember most recently Sam DuBose down, what's that? Down in, the man who was pulled, University of out in Cincinnati. Right.
Yeah.
Pulled over by University of Cincinnati police officer. There's still no charges filed, although this was last year, I'm pretty sure, but in the case of little 12-year-old Tamir Rice, who was shot and killed out in Cleveland. It goes on and on to the extent that we hear these and we talk about it, and then we just kind of move on, which we should not. It's worth reflecting on this first anniversary of Ferguson. Again, have we made any progress? And if not, why not? And what are we going to do about it? Not just accept it as the new normal. 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number. Weigh in on this first anniversary of the shooting and killing of Michael Brown out in Ferguson, Missouri. We'll take your calls when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
my beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, yes, 18-year-old Michael Brown, shot and killed 1 year ago yesterday in Ferguson, Missouri, has become really the national symbol of racial bias among white police officers and police departments across this country. The anniversary of his death marked yesterday in Ferguson, Missouri. Hundreds of people gathered. They began by gathering and observing 4.5 minutes of silence to represent the 4.5 hours that Michael Brown's body actually lay in the street before it was moved. And then they marched through the streets of Ferguson again, sadly, that ending up in gunfire, one man critically injured late last night. But doesn't take away from the meaning of the day. And the question to be asked is, despite this national conversation about racial bias among police departments, have we seen any progress? And again, the answer is not much. Washington Post reporting 24 unarmed black men shot and killed by police, 1 every 9 days so far this year. Chandler is out in Palm Springs, California. Chandler, thanks for joining us. What's your comment?
Yes, Bill, I have a question regarding the Ferguson issue and the issue of all of these civil rights violations and overt murders. I've had firsthand experience, and I'm confused as to why Bernie Sanders' impressive career, impressive track record as a civil rights activist is not being recognized. He's being protested by the very people that he has courageously defended and enlightened the public about and for decades.
Yeah, you know what, Chandler? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I think that they're making a huge mistake by going after Bernie Sanders. Cory Booker, the African-American senator from New Jersey, yesterday said, hey, Bernie Sanders is one of the great civil rights leaders and activists of our time. Leave this guy alone. Go after those 17 Republicans. So I think these people are really misguided. They're probably going after Bernie because he's getting the biggest crowds of all. That's the only thing I can tell you.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada. What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry for guns.
I understand that CrimAdvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California!
Boo, go home. Wow. CrimAdvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
CrimAdvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it. Ban fracking now.
Please.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, Monday, August 10, The Bill Press Show. Brought to you today, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, which is kind of a ghost town right now.
Yeah.
President's out of town. House is out of town. Senate's out of town. We're here.
Damn it.
And we're brought to you today by the American Federation of Government Employees. They're here, too, on the job, as they are every day, doing great work. And proud to work for America every day. The good men and women who keep our federal agencies running under the leadership of President J. David Cox. Go to their website at afge.org to find out more about their good work. Well, there's so much talk about Donald Trump. There's not much talk about Iran nuclear deal these days, and certainly not a lot of talk about what I think is a big story, and that is that Senator Chuck Schumer from New York last week came out and said he will vote against the Iran nuclear deal. What does this mean for its chances? Congressional reporter for Politico, Seung Kim, joins us on our news line this morning. Hello, Seung-min. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
All right. Good to have you with us. So, was it just a coincidence that Chuck Schumer made his announcement right in the middle of the Republican debate Thursday night?
Well, certainly. seen that way. I mean, Chuck Schumer, who is a fan of getting attention for his policy stances and whatnot. For the news to drop during the middle of the Republican presidential debate did raise some eyebrows. But I talked to some of my sources, and they said Senator Schumer actually told the White House that he was going to. He told the White House on Thursday afternoon that he would oppose the deal, and that his full lengthy statement would come out on Friday. But news leaked out. The Huffington Post reported on Thursday night, right before the debate, or maybe even right during the debate, that Schumer would oppose the deal. And then we all jumped on the news, and it really was this major development coming right in the middle of the presidential debate.
Right. Now, so is he actively lobbying now to get senators to vote against it?
I think the sense that we have is that he is not, twisting arms and whipping in the way that perhaps, Senator Durbin, who is supporting the agreement, is trying to rally Democratic senators on his side. I think it wasn't a surprise that Schumer was going to oppose the deal. There had already been a lot of signs that he would oppose it, but that he wouldn't. He really mentioned in his lengthy statement explaining his opposition that this was going to be a vote of conscience. This wasn't a political issue or a party issue. Each senator really had to weigh his or her considerations on how they feel about this deal. So I'm not expecting Chuck Schumer to really twist arms here. He does obviously carry much influence within the caucus, but if you look at the people who are kind of pure undecideds at this point, I'm not really sure how much Schumer's opposition would weigh into either side. Certainly, the arguments that he laid out, I'm sure the undecided senators would consider, but the fact that Chuck Schumer himself is opposing it, it's unclear yet exactly how much influence that would have.
All right. So then the related question is, Harry Reid has endorsed him. People sort of assume that Chuck Schumer is automatically going to become the next Democratic leader of the Senate when Harry Reid retires. The question is, how will this impact, or will it at all impact that succession? Before I get your comment, Josh Earnest was asked. We asked him about this at the briefing on Friday, and Josh indicated maybe we'll see some action.
Certainly wouldn't be surprised if there are individual members of the Senate Democratic Caucus that will consider the voting record of those who say they would like to lead the caucus.
What do you hear? Any rumblings?
I am very, very skeptical that Schumer's Iran opposition would have any bearing on his chances of being the next Democratic leader. I'm more than willing to eat my words if I am wrong. But the Senate Democratic Caucus, Schumer has such a deep reservoir of goodwill within his fellow Democratic members. His top potential challenger, Durbin, had very easily endorsed him without even much of a fight. Iran, while it's a very important issue, it is just one issue that senators and Democratic senators deal with. But by the virtue of their roles on Capitol Hill, I know a lot of Obama allies were out, vociferously on Friday saying how Chuck Schumer's future as Democratic leader may be challenged. You had Dan Pfeiffer out there, John Favreau, the former speechwriter. And I'm just really skeptical it really does have any influence. I don't think anyone's surprised that Schumer was going to be opposing the deal. And a lot of the liberal groups, a lot of the liberal outside groups, who have been really angry about this, who have been urging, reconsideration of him as the next Democratic leader, they weren't really big Chuck Schumer fans anyway, so I don't think he would really lose any support there.
Well, the question is, have you heard any Democratic, I've heard the outside groups, have you heard any Democratic senators say, I was going to vote for Schumer, but now I'm having second thoughts?
I have not heard a single person say that. To be fair, the news really broke Thursday night, so There was Friday. They're not here. We can guarantee you that had they been here in Washington, that would have been one of the top questions that we had asked. But again, I'm still skeptical that this really, Schumer will be the next Democratic leader, barring some major catastrophe, and I don't see one coming towards his way.
Yeah, I've heard from some of these groups have pointed out that Schumer, of course, and hardly the only Democrat who did vote for the war in Iraq, the invasion of Iraq back in 2002. And not only that, but in 2006, which I was surprised to learn, he supported the nomination of John Bolton to be George Bush's nomination of John Bolton to be U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. And reportedly told his fellow Democrats at the time in the caucus that a vote against John Bolton is a vote against Israel.
He does, and that's the interesting thing about Chuck Schumer. I mean, he's clearly, a Democrat. He is a liberal through and through. But when it comes to a lot of these issues involving Israel, I mean, you have to remember the major constituency that he has back at home in New York, and also just these outside groups have been flooding his office with calls. I mean, I think I saw something about, more than 10,000 phone calls and emails. You had Twitter engagements that were in the hundreds of thousands. I mean, he had been getting an earful from opponents of the deal. And while he was probably still going to be a no at the end of the day, I mean, you can't ignore the kind of pressure that he had been getting from back home, from the Jewish constituency there.
Yeah. All right, so when you add it all up, I mean, he'll take a few people with him. You also have Elliot Engel in the House and Steve Israel in the House and Anita Lowy in the House, also from New York, also with the same constituency. But do they and so it looks like there could very well be a congressional vote to disapprove the deal. But the big question is, once the president vetoes that, what about, do you think they can muster enough votes to override the veto?
I think they can. I think the
Really?
numbers. I believe that they can sustain the agreement, so they won't. Or they won't be able to override the veto. Sorry,
I see. Yeah.
I haven't had enough coffee this morning.
I just want to be sure when you said they can. You mean the White House can sustain the veto?
Exactly. And I think it's because, I mean, the numbers are always going to be tighter in the Senate. We're always watching to see if there could be that magic 67. But considering the Democratic senators who've come out in favor of the agreement, who we've always looked at as potential no votes on the broader Iran agreement, I mean, you're looking at guys like, Tim Kaine and Independent Angus King of Maine. I mean, they've already said they're going to support the agreement.
Right.
And I think if you kind of look at where people have fallen at this point, I mean, 60 is obviously within reach, but 67 looks very, very difficult. And even for the Senate notwithstanding, you look at over in the House, you already have, more than 150 House Democrats, if I recall correctly, who have already signed a letter supporting this agreement, and that alone will not get you to the 2/3 in the House to override a veto. I think the most damaging effect of what Schumer did was actually detailing out such a lengthy and detailed argument to the agreement that Republicans will now use. Yeah. But that's more of a messaging thing at this point. I think if you're talking pure numbers, the Iran agreement should be protected.
Okay, so I'm going to give you one assignment for today, Seung-min. Thank you for joining us. And your assignment is to go out there and find a Democrat who will run against Chuck Schumer, okay?
I will do my best. That's a great story.
I know.
Yeah, right?
Exactly.
It's good for everybody.
We want a real primary contest here, not just for president in 2016, but for Democratic leader of the Senate. So
if you have your New York listeners, my email address is skim@politico.com.
All tips and ideas, send them there.
Is it
exactly
Kim@politico.com, right?
Yes, Skim.
Skim@politico.com. Get your candidates. Send them into to Seung-min Kim, and let's get something started here on the Bill Press Show. Thanks, Seung-min. Talk to you again soon.
All right, take care.
See ya.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
On and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go now at 13 minutes before the top of the hour. Emma Roller from National Journal and Emily Shultheis from National Journal. It's a National Journal hour. How
about that?
The third hour of the Bill Press Show today. But right now, I want to touch on something we just touched on briefly here before we wind up here, and that is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders having another big weekend on the West Coast. Do you feel the burn? A lot of people are. Bernie Sanders going to Seattle on Saturday. By the way, I've been in touch with Evan McMorris Santoro, one of our good friends of Bill.
He's on the road with Bernie.
He's on the road with Bernie. He and I were together in New Hampshire on Monday, and he was out there. He emailed me yesterday. He was at the big event in Seattle on Saturday, where they had the largest event in Bernie's campaign so far, 16,000, Saturday afternoon in Seattle. Here he is.
Thank you, Seattle, for being one of the most progressive cities in the United States of America.
Indeed, and they put out a statement saying this was the largest crowd yet in the Sanders campaign. They might have held that back because the next day, Bernie Sanders goes down the road to Portland, Oregon, in the same auditorium, same amphitheater arena, rather, where the Trailblazers play. And this time, 28,000 people turning out, and Bernie with a message of his campaign.
This campaign is sending a message to the billionaire class. Yes, we have the guts to take you on.
And we are coming after you.
The billionaire class.
Yeah. And it's
billionaire.
Bernie with the same message in every crowd and the same message that Bernie has been articulating and fighting for his entire life. 40 years ago, you could take a Bernie Sanders speech that he gave 40 years ago and play it today. And these issues that he's been talking about are finally resonating with the American people. But there's been some trouble along the way, and there was again in Seattle, because before that big event, there was a smaller event. This was an event just to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Social Security, and Bernie has been one of the leaders of saying, don't touch Social Security. He's talked about that with us here on our program many times. And again, this is the second time it's happened. He was interrupted by a couple of activists who claim to be part of the Black Lives Matter campaign. Interrupted him. Bernie stood back, let them talk, and it became very clear that they were not going to relinquish the microphone at all. So the organizers of the event promptly just canceled the event, and Bernie never did get to speak. Which raises a question to me: is what are they picking on Bernie Sanders for? I mean, these people are. Now, got to be clear. They do not, we've learned, do not officially represent the BLM or the Black Lives Matter movement. Apparently they are outliers who claim to be speaking for the organization. The organization itself kind of has disowned them. But still, they managed to shut down another Bernie event. And ironically, this came right after Bernie Sanders had made a big announcement.
Yeah, he has a new national press secretary. Her name is Simone Sanders. No relation, by the way. She is a young African-American black criminal justice advocate. And talk about someone who speaks directly to that community.
Who was the leader, I believe, of the Seattle Black Lives Movement chapter.
Yep, absolutely.
The leader of the chapter is Bernie Sanders' new press secretary. And when they went to Portland, she introduced Bernie Sanders in Portland. I don't think she did in Seattle, but I know she did in Portland. And she's very effective. And she's the one who went to Bernie and said, here is what we're all about. These are our issues. These are what you've got to be talking about. And there's nobody that has been more out front for the issues that the African American community cares about, starting with civil rights and starting with Black Lives Matter, economic issues as well as social justice issues, than Bernie Sanders. Cory Booker, senator from New Jersey yesterday, made that point. Booker says, Bernie has become somebody I have tremendous respect for and is an ally of mine, has been an ally of mine in addressing issues in the United States Senate that affect minority communities. He has a long record of civil rights, according to Cory Booker. So I just got to say, these extremists, if you will, among the Black Lives Matter movement, they're picking the wrong guy with Bernie Sanders. Why aren't they going after Donald Trump or Scott Walker or any of those Republicans? There's 17 Republican
you got plenty of choices. You're right.
Easy targets, and I'll tell you what they're doing. It's pretty clear to me. They're just being lazy. They're going after Bernie Sanders because he gets the biggest crowds. Right?
I think that's probably accurate. I think that's probably the reason that they're doing it.
Yeah, they know the camera's going to be there. All the people are going to be there. So they can get the biggest bang for no buck by disrupting. And I think they're hurting themselves.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very, very good point.
And they're going after the wrong target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of all the people out there, Bernie's not the one, man. Not the one in terms of running for president.
No. I mean, they've got the biggest ally they've ever had.
Yeah.
Or we do, I should say, on these issues across the board. Big mistake. Big mistake. Leave Bernie alone. We'll come back. I tell you, what's on the president's schedule today? That's easy to talk about. Nothing.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go into hour number 3. Ready to move there. Remember, you got a little delay on Free Speech TV. Won't be able to watch until 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific, but you can watch right away on Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. So jump over there. What are the Republicans going to do about Donald Trump? Are they just going to continue to hope he goes away? Not even these latest comments against Megyn Kelly, no more than his comments against John McCain, have caused Donald Trump to lose much in the ratings. Oh my, what to do about Donald Trump? We'll get into that and a lot more in hour number 3, so stay with us.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves, would you like a bag? What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, a little bagel for breakfast, maybe. Done a little workout at the gym.
No, this is where we do the schedule. All of the things that the President of the United States is up to.
Maybe,
right?
Maybe see if we can round up a few people to play some golf with. Depending on the weather, maybe a little ocean swim. The President is in Martha's Vineyard, and that's going to be the schedule like for the next 2 weeks. So we're not going to worry about that. More importantly for us, we have Emma Roller and Emily Shultheis from National Journal in for the next hour. Has Donald Trump finally gone too far? We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Donald Trump said what? Well, we ask that question every morning, don't we? And certainly good reason to ask it today. But he will not apologize because he said nothing wrong. Hello, everybody. What do you say? It is Monday, August 10. We're here in our nation's capital and our studio on Capitol Hill, and here with you in every corner of the United States of America, on the radio and on television, on the radio on your local progressive talk radio station, and on either one of those two great radio apps, iHeartRadio or TuneIn. They're both free. Download them and use them to stay with us on the radio wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours. And if you're more TV inclined, we are there with you. Free Speech TV on the Dish Network and on Direct TV. Worldwide on our video stream, whatever electronic device you favor. You'll find us at youtube.com/TalkerTV. Great to see you today. Hope you had a great weekend. Ready to jump into the news of the day, such as it is, political and otherwise, with our team, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Great
Stormy
to see
Monday.
you. Yeah, a little bit. A little rainy. Not too bad.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
pretty. It's raining.
It happens.
It's still raining out there.
It
Yeah,
happens.
no, I know.
Yeah.
Complaining too bad.
And they'd love to have this weather in California.
Damn straight.
Right?
Yeah.
Jamie Benson is back from a little vacation. He's here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And we've got 3 out of 4 members of the team here. Well, or 4 out of 5. But we lost Cyprian again. He is off, and Monty Kanzler has jumped in again, thanks to Monty to being here as our videographer for the day. With lots of political news to talk about, we also reach out to our friends at the National Journal, starting with Emma Roller here in studio. Hello, Emma. Nice to see you.
Hi, Bill. Thanks.
This is the National Journal Hour.
Yes.
Your colleague, Emily Shultheis, will be joining us at the half hour as well. We've got lots to talk about. We will get to the political news of the day. I mentioned earlier, though, I did see, for political junkies, you got to see this movie called Best of Enemies. Documentary about the great debates held in 1968. ABC News hiring William F. Buckley Jr. and Gore Vidal to spice up their debate coverage from Miami and from Chicago, and it turned out
that hit a little close to home to you.
It did hit close to home.
Crossfire.
Yes, exactly. It made Crossfire seem like a Sunday school discussion. Yeah, the two of them, they hated each other. They were. And they didn't hold back. And they were both of them, such patricians. I mean, you think about it. William F. Buckley, one of the wealthiest New Yorkers, and Gore Vidal, born to wealth as well. Mm-hmm. And their choice of words. There's nobody today who could match their
No, I can't think of
their
anybody.
level of debate and their style of debate. Here's so it opened Friday. Best of Enemies. It's a documentary. Here's a little clip from the trailer.
This is Miami, day one.
The Republicans decided to hold their convention south of the Mason-Dixon line, and I blew that one. Let's.
Yeah.
Pieces of the ceiling start flying, and then the whole thing started giving away.
The
help us extract meaning from these conventions, two of America's most eloquent commentators, William Buckley and Gore Vidal.
Bill Buckley was the first modern conservative to see that ideological debates were cultural debates.
Mr. Buckley, do you think miniskirts are in good taste?
On you, I think they are.
He was asked that.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Well, you couldn't get away with that today either. He was asked that at some candidates forum, but that was Howard, I think, K. Smith was the moderator. But that reference to the studio collapsing, I mentioned, ABC was really a JV team at the time. NBC and CBS, they had it together. They were real networks. ABC was just getting started. They didn't have the money to cover the campaign the conventions gavel to gavel. So they did it 9:30 to 11 each night, and then they hired these two commentators to go at each other in their little debate format. But the day before the convention opened in Miami, they had built this little Mickey Mouse set down there. The whole thing collapsed. The ceiling caved in, and they had to prop it up and rebuild it.
Not while they were on it.
No, not while they were on the air, but the day before, and they had to prop it up overnight, like basically to get. So they got on the air. But it's a classic documentary of William F. Buckley Jr. and Gore Vidal going after each other. There were 10 debates. 5 in each city, and it's very, very entertaining, very amusing, and has some wonderful commentary by people today, including the late Christopher Hitchens, who's the only person I know who could possibly match their intellectual firepower.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody out there today that gets close to that type of debate.
But Sam Tannenhouse, who wrote a biography of Gore Vidal, is also featured in it as well. Anyhow, it's really worth seeing. We got lots of politics to talk about here. Today's politics, not 1968, with Emma Roller from National Journal. But first, Peter with the big stories of the day.
Just a couple of other stories making news. This is great news. Nichelle Nichols, who played Uhura on Star Trek, she suffered a stroke about 3 months ago. Okay. But here's the good news. She's doing great. She's doing wonderful, and she's doing so great, in fact, that she is going to fly on NASA's Sophia Space Telescope in September. Here's the deal with this space telescope. It doesn't go out actually into space, but it gets up to the stratosphere. It's an airborne observatory, a massive telescope mounted inside a 747 that flies as high as it possibly can.
Whoa.
Wow.
So she's doing very well, and she's going to go where no woman has gone before.
Yeah, we got it. Okay.
Hey, the Washington Nationals aren't having such a great stretch here, baseball-wise. But here's some good news. If you are a nursing mother that wants to go to a Washington Nationals baseball game, they have now built a whole special area just for you. It is a lounge that allows nursing mothers to get out of the heat, get out of the crowd. They can go into a private area, which has air conditioning. It has nice, big, comfy lounge chairs and electrical outlets for breast pumps. There are diaper-changing stations. There's even a little play area for toddlers if you have older kids that you need to carry around with you while you go take care of the little one that you're breastfeeding. So
good for the Nats.
Cool move.
Did not have such a great series against the Colorado Rockies this weekend.
No.
They lost to the Rockies Friday night and yesterday, but I want you to know, Saturday, Carol used to be, remember, you always told Carol's
sort of black cloud. We don't let her go to games during the playoffs. Yeah,
no.
They always lose.
No. We were there Saturday night, and it's the only time they beat the Rockies.
All right.
Carol's luck has turned around.
I was going to say, maybe this is her season.
I think we've been to like 3 or 4 games so far, and they've won every one we've been to. So.
Oh, wow.
Maybe she's the lucky charm there.
Maybe she's turned it around.
I think they ought to give her a season pass.
And over the weekend, quick story, because the president is on vacation. He played a little golf.
No
of course
kidding.
he did.
Shocker.
In Martha's Vineyard at the Farm Neck Golf Club. And one of his playing partners was Larry David, famous from Curb Your Enthusiasm and Seinfeld, of course. Pretty interesting pairing there. I can't imagine what they had to talk about.
You know what was cruel is they let the press pool, which very seldom is allowed to watch the president play golf or his golf partners. They let the press pool in to at one particular green, and Larry David had a ball in the sand trap. And what they got to see was Larry David trying to get out of the sand trap.
No.
It's hard to get out of the sand trap. I mean, that's my worst fear, too.
I know, man.
Yeah, and Larry David hit it, and it didn't get out of the sand trap, and the world gets to see that. Not fair. All right, thank you, Peter. Here's a question, Emma. I start with. We don't want to spend too much time on Donald Trump because we'll talk about him again with Emily, but. Let's talk about the Republican field. How do the other candidates deal with Trump?
Right. Well, he's just such an overwhelming presence. And obviously part of that has to do with the media coverage, but part of it also has to do with the polls. And it becomes this sort of vicious cycle of the more coverage he gets, the more ridiculous things he says, the higher his brand ID is. And he's obviously leading the polls. And, reporters report on who's winning in the polls. So that's sort of blocked out a lot of airtime for other candidates. But I think the upside is that these comments he's made about Megyn Kelly have given a pretty wide latitude to the other candidates. Like Jeb Bush last week made that sort of gaffe about how we shouldn't be spending $500 million on women's health, which he apologized for. Everyone's forgotten about that now.
Yeah, it's true. That's one of those things that could have haunted him for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that if it does go on, I'm sure we'll hear about it again. But you're right. Nobody's talking about it right now at all.
Well, I might add the fact that Marco Rubio is saying he would not allow an exception for rape or incest for women to have to carry a baby to term. And normally nobody's talking about that either.
Right. That would normally dominate the news cycle. I think him and Huckabee have both reaffirmed that they're not for any exceptions, but Trump is giving them a lot of cover in that way.
So, but within these campaigns, they must be talking about, do we ignore him? Do we attack him? Do we agree with him? I mean, I don't know if anybody's actually agreed with word for word, but Ted Cruz continues to defend him. Yeah, almost by omission of not saying anything bad about him, whereas all the other candidates have come out against Trump. Cruz, I think he shook Trump's hand at the end. He's pretty much the last holdout in the primary field to not go after Trump. Mm-hmm.
I wonder why that is, though.
I saw that Rubio said, I've made a decision. I'm just not going to comment on anything Donald Trump says, because if I do that, that's all I will do every day.
Right. And that is
which is probably true.
Probably true.
That's all we do every day.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, and you see Rand Paul, who's taken the exact opposite approach. Yeah. I think a few weeks ago, when Trump was first surging in the polls, Rand Paul did not really want to talk about him. Since the debate, he's been campaigning on Trump, or against him, rather. He stopped in South Carolina over the weekend and was talking about how, Donald Trump is this plutocrat who, and he has no idea what his personal philosophy is. So you see a variety of strategies in the GOP field of how to approach him, and I'm not sure which one's probably the most successful. I think everyone in the end just hopes that he's going to flare out.
Yeah, I think that's the strategy. Just wait until he says something that he can't recover from.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the latest big news on the Democratic side is that the Democrats have decided, have announced they're going to hold 6 debates starting at some point in October.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Martin O'Malley not happy with that?
He is not. He thinks they need more debates. He and the DNC are in somewhat of a scuffle over that, which makes sense for O'Malley because he needs as much time and as much airtime to show his face to voters and, first of all, get them to recognize him and know who he is, build name recognition, and, start to build himself as an alternative.
Right.
Why is he having such a hard time, in all honesty? Because, he was a governor. He had some national profile, and he just can't see. I mean, he's down with like Link Chafee numbers.
I think the problem is that he's up against. If Bernie Sanders were not there,
yeah,
Martin O'Malley would have some traction.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. Sanders is sort of eating his lunch in that way.
Yeah. But he's got, so it's Hillary Clinton, who has 100% name recognition.
Sure, yeah.
And Bernie Sanders, who's certainly caught fire with the economic populist theme and is running a very smart campaign and has raised, by the way, a lot more money, too.
Yeah.
From more people than even Clinton's campaign.
Did you see that headline, the Onion headline about Bernie Sanders is in the pocket of that teacher that donated $300 to his campaign? He's clearly in the pocket of the school teacher. Yeah.
You know what? $300 for Bernie Sanders, that would be a
that would be big.
Major contribution.
Yeah.
Right.
I think his average contribution was like $30 or something like that.
Yeah, right. And so, up against those two, Martin O'Malley, you're right, who is a great guy. I love Martin O'Malley. Great guy, great on the issues, great record as governor of Maryland. Really did some very progressive things as governor of Maryland. But it's hard to get any oxygen in this race against Bernie and Hillary.
Going back to what you were talking about earlier about the Black Lives Matters protesters, I'm surprised O'Malley hasn't gotten more flack from them. Sanders was a civil rights activist. Martin O'Malley helped implement this Comtel system in Baltimore that's gotten a lot of flack. It's basically like Moneyball for crime, which, was heralded at first, but then it got a lot of criticism for, targeting Black communities.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I haven't seen a lot of Black Lives protesters, aside from Netroots.
Right. At the time of the Baltimore riots, there were a lot of people who said it was Martin O'Malley's police policies that resulted in what we saw happen in Baltimore. We're talking the politics of the day, both Republican and the Democratic side. Emma Roller from National Journal. Your comments welcome at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour. Yes, here with Emma Ralder from National Journal. Very little time left. Emma, I have to ask you about... So the ratings for this first debate we're going to talk about. 23.9 million people.
Pretty amazing.
How big would it have been without Donald Trump?
Right. Well, that's the question, right? And in a way, you know, Trump got the most airtime of anyone. But the question is, did the other candidates reach more eyeballs because of Trump? And,
yes, is the answer, I think. Sure, they all did.
I think so, too, yeah. So even though they all, you know, visibly disliked Trump, with the exception of Cruz, the question is, you know, is he a mixed blessing for them for getting more attention to the Republican primary in general?
And what he did for Fox News. I mean, it became, I was just reading here, the largest audience that Fox has ever had, the 9th most viewed cable program ever.
Wow.
And the other 8 were all college football games on ESPN.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, right.
That says something about the sportsization of politics.
Yeah,
almost.
exactly.
Yeah.
It really
Doesn't it? It also means that if they are interested in ratings, they ought to keep Donald Trump alive and keep bringing him back center stage in every single debate.
They will, as long as they can, yeah.
You know?
You think Fox will?
Oh, whoever's running the debates?
Oh,
well,
yeah.
I mean, that you really want Donald Trump for the debates. That's my message.
I bet you CNN right now is making plans for Donald Trump center stage. Hey, Emma, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job, and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand, and they don't get it, and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now. Please.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour now on a Monday, August 10. How about it? Great to see you today. Thank you so much for joining us. We are here in our nation's capital and our studio on Capitol Hill. Program brought to you today by the United Steelworkers and their international president, the one and only Leo Gerard. The United Steelworkers, North America's largest industrial union, representing over 1.2 million active and retired members. Check out their good work and their all the different issues that they're involved in at their website, usw.org. National Journal owns this hour. Emma Roller here for the first half hour, and now her colleague Emily Shultheis joining us, both covering politics for 2016. Emily particularly on the Trump campaign, such as it is. Hi, Emily. Nice to see you.
Hi.
So did he finally go too far is the question. I mean, is this going to, his comments, post-debate comments, let's hear them again, I guess, because maybe not everybody, I can't believe there's no one who has not yet heard, but so we know that Megyn Kelly, first of all, asked Trump a tough but a very fair question, Megyn Kelly, during the debate, which sparked this whole little back and forth.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
Nice try, Donald. Didn't work. It wasn't just Rosie O'Donnell. So he however he handled it during the debate, he might have gotten out of it. But then after the debate, he went after her, said she was clearly biased. She was out to get him. It was an unfair question. And then he still won't let it up, and he goes on CNN Friday, I guess it was, in one final attack against Megyn Kelly.
He starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions, and, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
Disgusting comment. And he claims he was not indicating that this was a particular time of month for her, but most people took it that way. And
that says a lot about Donald Trump, right? Like, you just assume that's not something that he would do, right? You just know he's going to do that.
So yesterday he was invited on all the Sunday talk shows. So whatever you think about this, the day after the debate, the day after, even today, above the fold, every newspaper, every cable TV, what they're talking about, and here we are, Donald Trump. So it has dominated the news. But now people are saying, well, this was it. This was one word, as the New York Times said yesterday, one word too far. This is the beginning of the end of the Trump campaign. Do you believe that?
Well, I think that the reaction to it would certainly suggest that. However, I also remember a month ago when Donald Trump was out in Iowa, he belittled John McCain's time as a prisoner of war, said he likes people who weren't captured, and everyone thought that was a step too far at the time. And so he is so good at saying things that cause outrage, cause people to all pay attention to him, makes him the story. And, maybe this one is finally the one where you start to see people abandon him, start to see people saying, all right, I like that this guy has told the truth, but this is not okay for me. But I think most of us would have expected that moment to come last month, and it didn't.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he continued to rise in the polls after that.
I saw this morning the first post-debate poll that I've seen. Now, not post-blood comment debate, but in this debate, he was at 23%, which is 1 point down from where he was before the debate. Not in the same poll, but we have yet to see whether this is going. And you're right. I think the same people who are saying this is the end for Donald Trump are the ones who said this is the end for Donald Trump back in the John McCain comments.
It's just difficult because he defies our normal political conventions for the way a candidate should work, the way a candidate's rise and fall should work. And so you can say that, and I'm sure that there are leaders in the Republican Party who would very much wish that this was the end of Donald Trump and that he's had his moment and he's done, but I don't know.
And the other flap over the weekend was that he either fired or the person resigned, Roger Stone, who was his chief campaign advisor, not his campaign manager, I guess. Roger Stone, who has quite a history himself of causing trouble in politics. But it's he and Trump had this bizarre kind of friendship relationship or whatever. I mean, does that hurt Donald Trump in any way, that he's lost Roger Stone?
Probably not. Yeah. I think that's it. Just as stuff that Trump says doesn't seem to have the same kind of come down to earth effect as it would on somebody else. I don't think that campaign infighting, regardless of who, how colorful that person happens to be. I mean, for somebody whose tagline is "You're fired," I don't know that anybody would be that surprised that somebody is leaving the campaign.
All right, so now the word is he knows that he's got to show that and who knows what Trump is thinking, right? But I've seen several stories today. Okay, now Trump realizes he's got to show he's really a serious candidate. So he's going to be hiring staffers in Iowa and New Hampshire to actually put a field operation together and putting out policy papers on some of the important issues. Really?
I will very much look forward to seeing what those policy papers look like. This is the same guy who during the debate was asked for specific proof to back up his comments about immigration that caused such a flap.
Yeah.
And his proof was, well, I talked to border agents and they tell me all these things.
Right.
Because border agents, I'm sure, have strong knowledge of the inner workings of the Mexican government.
Right.
Naturally.
And they know the Mexican government, right. That just sending all these rapists across the border. Yeah, it's hard to imagine a Donald Trump coming out with a 9-point position paper on housing or education or
giving a serious speech about it,
or climate. Yeah, right. Or climate change, or you name the issue. But does he ever have to?
I don't know. I think that he's certainly hitting a point where he has done the entertainer thing now for almost 2 months, and I don't know how long he can sustain that without starting to do some of these things. I think that the interesting thing about Donald Trump overall is that in the 2012 race, all he had to do was talk about flirting with a run for president, and people paid attention to him. And this time around, nobody would have even paid attention, and so he had to take the step of actually getting into the race. And so we're at a point where, in order for people to continue to pay attention to him, maybe he does need to act like a regular presidential candidate in certain ways, check some of the boxes so that he can continue to run and continue to appear like a serious candidate, or like he intends to be a serious candidate. And I honestly, I don't know what he intends, so that's speculation on my part. But
I could be totally wrong. I think he could get by without position papers, but I do think you need a political operation. Somebody has to make the calls and do the groundwork to get people out to the caucuses in Iowa.
Yeah, when we start talking about primaries and caucuses and things like that, do we really think that Donald Trump might win some of these?
Yes, if he had the right operation, I would say.
Yeah.
Yes, but again, in New Hampshire, it's a primary. But you've got to have somebody who's going to say, identify their voters and get their voters out to the polls.
Right.
That's just politics 101, GOTV, right? Now,
right.
So far, as I know, you would know more, there's no campaign operation, is there?
He has.
On the ground?
One of my colleagues was up in New Hampshire probably about a month ago and wrote a piece about how he was essentially buying campaign staffers from the Americans for Prosperity chapter up there. So he has small teams in Iowa and New Hampshire. He doesn't have, a staff of field organizers or all the kinds of things you'd need, especially in Iowa since it's a caucus system. But he has some people.
And what are the possibilities that if he were to fall out of the running in the Republican primary, which we all think is eventually going to happen, that he would turn around, spend his money, and put an organization together to run as an independent?
I don't know. I mean, you have that very great moment from the very beginning of the debate last week where he raises his hand. It is. I saw something this morning, and I can't remember where it was from. I know, right? It just started the whole thing off on
right
such
off
a
the
great
bang.
But no, I saw something. Can't remember who it was from, saying that if he wanted to prove he was serious about his candidacy, he would rule out a third-party bid now. I don't think we're going to see him do that. I think he is going to want to continue talking himself up as long as he possibly can.
Yeah, but let me tell you something else. As we all know, there's a reason that that since Ross Perot, there has not been a serious third-party candidate, and because it's hard. It's really hard to get on the ballot in all 50 states. In fact, he was going to run once. He registered for Ross Perot's party, actually way back in his career, and was thinking of running as part of that, whatever party it was. And he decided not to. He realized getting on the ballot in all 50 states, massive amount of money, massive amount of organization and paperwork and legal work and all of that.
It's even, you saw in 2012, there were a handful of declared Republican candidates who couldn't pull it off, let alone people who don't have a party apparatus behind them.
Yeah. So I think in the end that he won't, but if were he to do so, if he really did that and got on the ballot, boy, he could wreak havoc with certainly with the whoever the Republican nominee is. Yeah, we haven't seen. Despite what he's said and his refusal to apologize, I don't think we've seen the end of Donald Trump at all. Emily Shultheis covering the Trump campaign for a national journal and some of the other candidates too. We'll get into when we come back here at 866-55-PRESS, the Bill Press Show on a Monday morning, August 10.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. Truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour with Emily Shultheis from National Journal. Headline on Drudge this morning. NBC News scientific poll. Trump increases his lead after the debate. I don't see the numbers up here on that, but try to get them. But even the headline, we'll see. The polls after the debate and after the latest round of comments on Megyn Kelly. But I wouldn't be surprised if he holds his own. Let's say hello, Emily, before we move on to Helen up in Ithaca, New York. Hello, Helen.
Hey, good morning, Bill and everyone.
Yeah.
I've got a question about the misogynistic Trumpster, and it's about the law. And I find it odd that I find it illegal that one could put something in a contract that is unconstitutional, such as Ivana Trump and the second wife, who's Marla Maples, I think that was her name. They're not allowed to say anything bad about him. I mean, how can you get away with that? You know, I mean, if they say something that's not true, they can be sued for slander, or if it's published, it can be libel. How can you put that in a contract? You cannot say anything bad about me. You know?
I think you have three non-lawyers here, Helen, so I would be careful about the answer.
It's a complicated issue.
But I have often practiced law without a license, and there are confidentiality agreements that happen a lot in divorce cases, in business settlements, in when lawsuits are settled. It's not unusual for that to be a clause. And if both parties sign it, then I think you've got some legal responsibility. Emily?
Yeah, you hear about non-disclosure agreements or confidentiality agreements. Again, definitely not a lawyer, so take this with a grain of salt, but and I don't know what the penalties are for something like that, but it's not uncommon.
And Ivana Trump has actually come out and in support of the Donald.
Yeah. Again, it's a very complicated issue. I mean, when you go through these things, you sign up for this stuff, and it's mutually beneficial to all parties that it stays the way that it is right now. That's all I could say. That's as much knowledge as I could drop on that.
For full disclosure, I happen to be under I have signed a confidentiality agreement in a lawsuit.
Oh, this should be good. Go ahead, Bill. Tell us more.
I did a couple of years ago. That's all I'm saying. I am a party to one of these, and I have to tell you, I take it seriously.
Who?
Come on, you can tell us.
No, I'm not going to tell you with whom or over what. All I'm saying is I take it seriously, and I would.
Yeah, no, it's a
I've
thing.
gone out of my way to be very careful about that because I signed it, and I love to spill the beans right here, right now. But I won't.
Maybe tomorrow. So tune in.
All right. So what's happening on the Democratic side? I keep forgetting. You got to remind people. There's a Democratic primary too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's so the big ticket news out of this weekend was the crowd that Bernie Sanders got in Portland. 28,000 people showed up. Which is, he's been getting crowds above 10,000 people pretty regularly for a few weeks now, but 28,000 people is just, that's massive. That's a, sporting event.
Yeah.
Let alone
absolutely.
a political rally.
So if he can translate that into votes in the caucuses in Iowa and in New Hampshire, he could win Iowa and New Hampshire.
He could, and I think that's the big question. I was out in Iowa a couple weeks back trying to get a sense of what his ground operation looked like, and at the time they were very rapidly staffing up. They'd hired, they had 31 people on the ground there. They supposedly had 40 by August 1st, and so it is they're meeting all of the benchmarks of when I talk to Iowa strategists about where you need to be, how many field offices, how many organizers. They're meeting all of those, and whether they can actually. Whether the kind of person who shows up to a Bernie Sanders rally is also the kind of person who will reliably show up at a caucus, I think that remains to be seen, but they're doing what they need to do.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Emily. Well, the big challenge here now is to see what I want to see whether Donald Trump is center stage for the second debate, which isn't that far away. It's this month, right?
Is it
August, I believe.
It might be either later this month or early next.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
On CNN.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what? I bet you they would pay Donald Trump to be on.
Yeah, of course they want him there.
They want him at
This is the problem for the Republican Party is that you have a massively watched the best watched debate in Republican in presidential debate primary history, and it's because it's at least in large part because he is on that stage.
Absolutely. All right. Great to see you. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Great to be here.
I'll have a quick final word about Donald Trump when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, just one final point on Donald Trump, and that is getting rid of him will not cleanse the Republican Party. The rest of them on the issues are just as bad as he is. Remember, on women, every one of those candidates, except George Pataki, called himself pro-life. Marco Rubio asserted he'd force a woman to carry a baby to term, even in the case of rape or incest. On immigration, they're all mini Trumps. They may not call immigrants rapists, but every one of the GOP candidates except Jeb Bush and John Kasich would deport all undocumented immigrants, no matter how long they've been in the country. So they may try to throw Donald Trump out of the Republican Party, but the Republican Party will remain the party of Donald Trump. That's my parting shot for today. Folks, have a great Monday. Come back and see us again tomorrow.
This
We'll be looking
is
for
the
you.
Bill Press Show.